Hey everybody, Charlie with NHORC here. Today I want to talk to you again about the gyro in the Losi PromotoMX here. So, you may have seen my previous video, link in the corner, where I did some experimentation based on the setting of the MS6X knob here, which I will refer to as the lean knob from now on, about how that functioned, what that did to the bike from a practical standpoint. So, for me, this knob is very critical to how this bike rides, and it's not just for me, for everybody, right? If you want to run this bike and you want to be fast about it, particularly if you're going to be racing, we really need to understand exactly how this functions, because it dramatically changes how the bike rides. So, for the duration of this video, I'll be calling this the lean knob. If I accidentally let slip gyro, I'll correct it on the screen, but I'm going to refer to it as the lean knob from now on, as that's what Losi refers to it in as the manual. So all the way to the right or clockwise I will refer to as 100, and all the way to the left or counterclockwise I will refer to as 0. So basically, since I posted that video, it's gotten quite a few watches, quite a few likes and comments, including one comment, or actually a series of comments, from John Adams of Losi. So John Adams, the technical director of Losi, of Spektrum, and I'll put that on the screen here for you to read, freeze frame it if you want to read the comments, or you can go to the video I put up in the corner earlier, and you can read the comments yourself, ask John some questions, maybe he'll answer. So John from Spektrum was saying pretty categorically that my analysis of how the gyro on this works is wrong. So, him being the expert, I have to obviously defer to him. He's the dude who made it. So I've asked him and a couple other Losi employees who've commented on some Facebook posts and things like that if they'd be willing to do an interview or something where we could really dig into it. I haven't got any answers yet. Hopefully I hear from them. I would love to do an interview with you guys. I absolutely love this model. It's super fun. And I just want to understand it better. That's what I'm going for here, is understanding it better. So let's go over a couple things about the gyro first, and then we'll move on to what I'm going to do in this video. Alright, so the first thing we want to understand about the gyro that is in the Losi PromotoMX, referred to as the MS6X, is that it is a 6-axis gyro. So what does this mean? The first 3 axes in basically every gyro are pitch, roll, and yaw, right? So pitch is this way, roll is this way, and yaw is this way. Think about an airplane controls, right? You can pitch back, you can roll to the side, you can yaw back and forth, right? So from the rear, just for example's sake, you have pitch, you have roll, and you have yaw. So those are your 3 axes on which the vehicle can move. Now a 6-axis gyro, there's a couple variants of them. The one that is in this, per the comment from John Adams of Spektrum, is that the second 3 axes here are acceleration. So this is a 6-axis gyro that has not only pitch, roll, and yaw, but the gyro is also capable of detecting acceleration in those same 3 fields of movement, right? So the gyro knows when you're accelerating the bike hard. The gyro knows when you're braking hard. It can detect angular momentum, basically, right? Is if you're cranked over, right, the gyro's feeling a pretty hard pull, like kind of that way, and that way, since you're accelerating around a corner, or you're braking, right? If you're braking, it would be feeling it the other way. And it's taking that information, combining it with the roll, the pitch, and the yaw of the vehicle, and then modifying your inputs from the controller to help you achieve a turn, or, depending on the mode you're in, right, a wheelie. So Losi has stated very clearly in a video, which I love to see, that when you are in wheelie mode, this knob controls the wheelie angle. So basically, the higher you set it, the higher it will let the bike pitch back while you're doing a wheelie. So if you crank it all the way up, it'll pretty much let you drag the tail on the ground, and if you go you know, pretty low to the ground, you'll probably only pull a low wheelie. I'll definitely get into testing this and showing you exactly where it's going to be. I just have to get to some pavement and do that. I'm trying to avoid smoking my back tires any worse than they're already smoked, so I'm keeping it on dirt for the moment. So for my discussion here, I'm going to be talking exclusively about dirt mode. I don't want to talk about wheelie mode. I don't want to talk about road mode yet. I just don't have any experience with that. And honestly, I think the one that myself and most people are going to be most concerned with if you're trying to go fast with this thing is dirt mode, because you're going to be racing off-road. So when we talk about these things, right, there's only so many ways the bike can take the inputs it's getting from the gyro, the inputs it's taking from the controller, and translate that into help keeping the bike upright. Now, there's potentially three things this bike can do to assist you in keeping it stable, right? Now, in theory, you could be holding the throttle full down and turning all the way. Normally, on a vehicle like this, the only two things I would say that the bike could do would be to either adjust the steering angle for you or increase or decrease the throttle for you. Now, this bike has a flywheel. I don't know if this is the case, but in theory, the bike could also change the speed of the flywheel on the fly. It'll be very hard to measure that just because we can't see it in there. You know, we don't have an output reading for how many RPMs that flywheel is at, but based on how long it takes to start and stop, I would be surprised if the 1 pound flywheel spinning at like 22,000 RPMs is involved much in the, you know, microsecond to microsecond adjustment of the bike. I could be wrong there. If I am, please, Spektrum people, tell me. I'm just going to assume for the moment that the gyro spins at a fixed rate, or that the flywheel spins at a fixed rate all the time. And again, I am doing this, you know, folks from Losi, if you're listening to this, I'm doing this just because I want to understand how to drive this thing. I want to know when I set that lean knob at 0, what happens. You know, how does the bike change in handling from when it's set to 100? I want to, you know, and I realize it's doing way more calculations a second than I could possibly analyze, but I need to know the difference from a practical driving perspective. I've got nothing but respect for you guys at Losi. You've made a super awesome product here. I love it. I love ripping it. I wish I could get parts for it. I want a couple spare rear tires. I want to get those Promoto slicks on there for road driving, that kind of stuff. Phenomenal product. So I don't want this to come across like I'm trying to bash any of the Losi folks. I love the team that put this together. This is immediately jumped to like one of my favorite RCs I own and have ever driven. It's super cool. So my plan here is to do a little bit of bench testing. It's dark out. I can't get outside right now to do some testing, but I want to see how the bike responds in a bench environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to power the whole thing up, and I'm going to play with the steering when I jerk it around, right? So if you take a drift car and you power the gyro up and turn it, you can see the wheel turn. I'm assuming this should do the same thing. I've noticed a little bit of movement when I've kind of like put it down, but I've never really, you know, picked it up with everything on and tried to like spin it around. So I'm going to play with the lean knob and jerk the bike around, and I fully recognize that this does not include inputs from the accelerometer and that this is going to change, but I'm trying to wrap my head around what is going on in this magic little piece of tech that's hiding under this cowling here that makes this, you know, I want to know the magic. I want to know how that rate adjustment changes this thing's performance. So I'm going to power it up. I'm going to spin the flywheel up. I'll probably just narrate over in post because the flywheel is going to be really loud and obnoxious and I won't be able to easily talk over it. But like I said, I'll speed it up in post, or I'll narrate it in post, and let's see if we can discover anything new about this. Alright, I've got the bike on, flywheel's spinning at full speed there, you can hear it in the background, and the lean knob is currently set all the way to the left, or 0% as I've been referring to it as. Flywheel's on. Now I'm going to kind of do some tests and see how that front wheel reacts. So first we're going to start off with no input on the transmitter, so that would represent driving in a straight line. So, whoa, trying to turn it by the stand, it actually wants to come off the stand because of that flywheel. Alright, so we've got the bike, we're driving in a straight line in theory, right? Again, accelerometer is not being involved here, but if the bike goes to fall over, you can see that front wheel makes some corrections. So as it goes over, and we are lined up straight with the camera here, as it goes over, it turns a little bit and then kind of slowly snaps back to position. So you can see it's angled slightly this way, slightly to the left, as the rider's falling over to the left, so angling the tire to the left would result in some right turning force, which would in theory bring the bike back upright to center. So you can see with the gyro at 0, or the lean knob at 0 here, when you crank it over, that front wheel makes a snap adjustment to try to hold you up. So let's take the lean knob and spin it all the way to 100. We're now all the way at 100, all the way clockwise. Let's see if it does anything different. So I would say it makes a more aggressive adjustment. Let's go back. Oh, maybe not. So it depends on how hard I push the bike. If I go slow, it makes a minor adjustment. If I really push it, you can see it cranks over a lot. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do all the same things. We're going to start with the lean knob at 0, and I'm going to hold the bike in a full turn to that side. So the wheel is pointing right, which would equal a left-hand turn in real life. So the bike would be like this going around the turn. If you're going fast enough, depending on the gyro, you might get that lean. This would be a left-hand turn at full lock. And we're at 0 on the lean knob. So let's see what this does, right? I'm fully upright. Let's see, we're straight with the camera here. Turn all the way to the side. Now this would in theory be a left-hand turn. Let's see what happens if I lean it left hard. It jerks the wheel straight momentarily, but it comes back pretty quick, back to that full lock. Yeah, so it pretty quickly snaps back to being fully locked to the side. Let's see what happens if we push it the other way while still holding it to the left. Nothing. So in that scenario, the gyro's going, this would never happen in real life. What are you doing to me? I don't know what to do about this. It's just confused because this should never happen. But when you try to go to the left, it snaps it back to center briefly and then goes back to full lock left. So we're gonna turn the gyro knob now all the way up to the right. I'm gonna hold it full left again. Line ourselves up on the camera. Full left. Right. Still nothing. Left. Whoa. Now see, this is where things are getting interesting. So it's a way snappier return. I can hear it hitting the bump stop. Whoa, it's actually even just hard to do this on the bench. So if you do that, now this is where, because I'm on the bench, it has no accelerometer data, so all it knows what to do is to snap that back to full lean. That's interesting. So let's put it back to the other side. Gyro 0. Full lock. So I feel like the snap is a little fair bit gentler on lean 0. Put it back up to 100. Yeah. So the snap around is definitely gentler at 0. Alright, so we've tested this way. Let's see what happens when we yaw the bike, which is going to be harder because of that flywheel really wants to reduce the movement here. So with 0, we're at 100% lean knob here. When we do that movement, it does get some movement also. But mostly it's just fighting to try to keep the bike straight at that point, I think. So if we give it some full lock, See if I can do this without dropping the bike. So this way would never happen. Oh, God. That way it does a little correction, but not too much. It's really hard to do that with one hand. That flywheel, the momentum from that thing does not want to let you do these things. This is a workout trying to shift that thing with one hand like that. So, and this whole time I've been doing this, I've heard no variation in the flywheel. So I think the flywheel is just on 100% of the time, I think. Losi folks, please correct me if I'm wrong. Alright, let's see if up and down has any impact. As expected, nothing. Okay, so we're in dirt mode on the transmitter. We've got the lean knob set to 100, and I found something interesting. And I guess this wasn't completely unsurprising, but when you're in dirt mode, it doesn't want to let the bike wheelie. It tries to suppress it, not quite as much as on-road mode, but it does try to suppress the wheelie. So, if I pick the bike up, and I hold the throttle at a set point, and I pick the nose of the bike up, can't do it fast enough there. So I'm not doing anything to the throttle here, and it's taking it way out of the rear. See, I'm still on the throttle. So if I'm on the throttle a little bit, you can hear it stopping that rear tire to help suppress that wheelie. So if we switch it to wheelie mode, so now we are in wheelie mode meant for pavement, same thing. I am doing nothing to the trigger. We'll hold it nearly, probably 50% throttle. So, clearly, the gyro has the ability to interfere with the throttle interface as well, which I guess we kind of had to know based on how wheelie mode would function. The only other way it could maybe have been doing wheelie mode was by alternating the flywheel. I do think, based on this testing, I never heard the flywheel change tone at all, so I think the flywheel is just always 100%, or, always whatever this is currently spinning at. But in wheelie mode, it will suppress the back end. But also in wheelie mode, it still gives you some of that lean correction. Alright, so you're still getting that snap correction in the front to help try to keep you upright. We turn that to 0. So now we're at 0 on the lean knob. That's the same. Let's see what it does with the wheelie mode. Oh yeah. So this would be a really low wheelie setting right here. So so I never made a change in my throttle input for all of that, and it will just bring that rear wheel to a stop. So yeah, the gyro definitely has the ability to interfere with your throttle inputs also. It'd be really interesting to know, because when you're going around a corner, right, in that laid out, leaned over position, go back to dirt mode, you're in this full lock position, you've got the gyro turned all the way down, right, you're in this kind of like somewhat drift position. If while you're doing that, it modulates the throttle for you at all.
Hey everybody, Charlie from the editing desk here. Now, since I shot the bench footage and now, I ran a couple of packs through the bike outside earlier today, and I think I figured out the secret sauce that I'd been missing. So the bench testing, I think, does help understand how the steering works, and I do think that the lean knob does have quite a bit of impact over the front steering. However, I don't think it's as much as I previously thought. I think the main difference, and again this is speculation, so Losi folks correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you are at lean 0, not only does the bike make more aggressive changes in the front tire, in the steering, but it actually cuts throttle out. So the video here, it's kind of hard to hear. I'll boost it up once I stop talking. Is I had my nephew drive the bike in a relatively consistent U-turn at a consistent speed. We did this a bunch of times, not moving his finger on the trigger. And with the lean knob set to 0, so minimum lean angle, in addition to the inputs it was making, I could hear the motor slow down. So I think that's what I was not getting at, and I kind of stumbled into it on the bench here and hadn't fully formulated the realization, but driving it this afternoon, I've figured it out, I think. So this is a hypothesis, but when you have the lean knob at 0, the bike, in addition to doing steering inputs, will chop the throttle on you to help tighten up the turn, which is why it feels like you can't do a power slide when the lead knob is at 0, because it's pulling the throttle out from underneath you. So when you put the lean knob at 100, I think the steering inputs are a little different, but not nearly as different as I originally thought. But it's not doing nearly as much override on the throttle. It feels like you can basically just slam the throttle into the onto the floor, and it will just let you spin that back tire for days, right? And just let you hold that drift. So I think that's the secret sauce. I'm going to keep testing, but I'll stop talking. I'll show you the video with the audio boosted so you can kind of hear it. It's not ideal. I was using my cell phone. I wasn't planning on filming when I went out this afternoon. But I think that's what it is. I think that when you have lean set to 0, it aggressively reduces throttle to assist you in making a tighter turn.
I would like to formally extend an invitation to anybody on Losi who understands how this thing works to do a remote interview with me, where you can really tell us, the community, how this thing works. I love this bike. I have a great time with it. I'm always itching to drive it. I'm super excited to race it. I want to understand how this functions from a practical standpoint beyond the one image in the quick start guide and the brief little bit about driving modes in the larger manual. And just I know it's super complicated. I'm an IT guy. I'm not even going to attempt to get into how that thing actually does the algorithm, right, to keep itself upright. It's some magic that the guys at Losi have worked here. It's super cool. I just want to understand what it does from a practical standpoint, beyond just trying to feel it out, right? I'm not a feel it out kind of guy. Personally, I like to see things demonstrated. It's why I do this channel. It's why I do things like the chain lube and tension video that I did, right? Because I know some people are visual learners. I want to see that. Now, obviously, if Losi just puts out a video explaining it, that'll work. I kind of hope you guys come chat with me. I'd love to talk to you guys at Losi about this thing. I think it'd be super fun. But just, we the community need a bit more depth, right? You don't necessarily have to have it in the manual for the people who are just messing around. But, please, put something out there that really explains some of the magic here. Now, I know it was stated in the comments on the other YouTube video that there's a patent coming out soon. I'm not sure if that will help explain it. Some patents are very vague, others are very technical. I'm going to keep experimenting with it until I have a good understanding of it. I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride, and I would love it if the folks from Losi would chat with me and give us, me and the community, some additional insight into how this thing works and how to tune this lean/gyro/MS6X knob for something like racing. Because those of us who are going to be racing, we really want to understand this stuff. So I hope that my rambling journey here that hasn't really come into any great conclusions has maybe helped you a little bit. This is a bit different of a video than I usually do. If it has, please please subscribe. This thing's super fun. I know people are having a hell of a hard time getting them right now. Suffering from success, as I think it's DJ Khaled would say. It's a great time. It's the hottest thing in the market. Everybody's excited to race it. Everybody's excited to run it. And we just, we wanna better understand the magic that's going on in this gyro. So, have a good day, YouTube. See you next time.